You are now listening to The Drowsy Trader. Before we begin, would you do something for me? In the comments, tell me what time it is for you and where in the world you're listening from. I read every one of them, and I always wonder who's out there sharing this quiet moment. If these journeys help you rest or slow down or just dream a little deeper, consider liking or subscribing, but only if it truly brings you peace. Now, close your eyes. Tonight, you are not yourself. You are a clerk in a Wall Street bucket shop. The year is 1906. Gas lights flicker against brass signs. The air smells of ink, sweat, and stale cigars. And the ticker never stops ticking. Your job? To take bets, not trades. To smile while the house wins. To move fast, speak low, and keep the books clean, or at least clean enough. This is a day of quiet friction, of whispered tips and sideways glances, of chalkboards, corners cut, and questions left unasked. But it's also a day of flickering change, a long look from the bookkeeper, a shaken gambler's hand, a moment late at night when the city goes quiet and you wonder what comes next. Let go. Let the stillness begin. The Drowsy Trader presents You Work at a Bucket Shop, 1906. You step into the dim office in the early morning, the air still carrying a nighttime chill. A soft glow seeps through the tall, narrow windows, casting pale rectangles of light onto the hardwood floor. Dust motes drift lazily in the beam of dawn, swirling gently as you close the heavy door behind you. For a moment, you savor the silence before the day's frenzied energy begins. Inside this small Manhattan brokerage, it is quiet enough that you can hear your own breath. Hanging in the air is the faint scent of old paper, ink, and a whiff of cigar smoke lingering from yesterday. You shrug off your coat and run a finger along the counter, picking up a trace of chalky residue. In the gentle stillness, you are keenly aware of each sensation. The smooth grain of the worn wooden countertop under your fingertips, and the distant tick of a clock down the hall. This is your routine each morning, arriving before anyone else to ready the office, a sanctuary of calm before the speculative fever of the day awakens. In one corner stands the stock ticker machine, quiet for now. Its black metal casing and glass dome glint faintly in the morning light. Soon enough, it will come alive with its characteristic chatter, feeding out thin ribbon tape that carries the news of the markets. You take a moment to check the ticker's paper supply and oil its mechanism lightly as you've been taught. The device is a marvel of modern finance, a quote, seductive technology that brings the outside financial world into this little room. As you tend to it, you recall how mesmerized you were the first time you watched it, spitting out its endless ribbon of numbers and symbols. Even now, the anticipation of that steady ticky-ticky-tick quickens your heartbeat just a touch. A large chalkboard covers much of the wall. Faint, ghostly figures of yesterday's final prices are still visible in chalk dust. You reach for the eraser, its felt surface soft and familiar in your hand, and gently sweep away the remnants of the previous day. The chalk makes a quiet scritch sound as you clean the board, releasing a cloud of white particles that dance in the morning light. With a fresh stick of chalk, you carefully write the date at the top, October 3rd, 1906. The numbers are neat and precise. You take pride in your penmanship. Beneath, you list the key stocks that most of your customers like to bet on: Consolidated Copper, New York Traction, Pennsylvania Railroad, U.S. Steel, and a few others. Each name has plenty of space next to it, ready to be updated with the latest quotations once trading begins. As you prepare the office, your mind drifts to the journey that brought you here. In the quiet morning, memories surface unbidden. Not so many years ago, you were a boy selling newspapers on these very streets, your hands blackened with ink by day's end, and your pockets mostly empty. Back then, Wall Street was another world. You peered through its windows from the outside, awed by the men in crisp suits and the aura of money and power. Getting here was never guaranteed. You remember long evenings studying ledgers by candlelight, teaching yourself numbers and accounting when formal schooling was a luxury you couldn't afford. Bit by bit, you pulled yourself from rags to a semblance of respectability. Now you wear a clean collar and tie, and you hold a position of trust, a clerk in a brokerage, even if it's just a tiny bucket shop. The term bucket shop makes you shift uneasily in the silence. Officially, Cartwright & Company is a brokerage, or so it says on the shingle outside. But in truth, everyone here knows the reality. No actual stock will be bought or sold for clients today. All the trades are mere wagers on price movements, bets against the house. Customers come in to speculate on stocks with just a few dollars. They don't own any shares for real. If they win, the house pays out. If they lose, the house keeps their stake. It's a shadow market, an echo of the real exchange running on bets and hope. Sometimes you wonder if what you do is entirely legal. After all, the practice toes the line between speculation and gambling. In hushed tones, you've heard this world described as a financial netherworld, a place operating between the sanctioned and the illicit. Yet, here you are, relying on this job for your daily bread and a foothold in respectable society. The moral ambiguity of it all sits in the back of your mind, but you push it aside as you do each morning. There are tasks at hand and a day to get through. You finish writing the stock names on the board and step back, checking your work. The letters stand crisp and ready on the slate. Taking a fresh cloth, you wipe your chalky hands and survey the office. It's a modest space, but an attempt has been made to mirror the look of the grand brokerages downtown. The furniture, while a bit scuffed around the edges, is made of heavy oak. A few high-backed leather chairs, their arms cracked from years of use, sit in a corner for clients who wish to lounge while watching the tape. The walls are adorned with a couple of framed prints, one of a bull and a bear in playful combat, another of the New York Stock Exchange building itself, as if to lend an air of legitimacy. By the front window stands a polished mahogany counter where transactions are recorded and money changes hands. Behind it, tall wooden cabinets hold ledgers and files. The telephone rests on the counter too, a fairly new model with a brass speaking tube and a separate earpiece. It rarely rings. Its main use is for Mr. Cartwright to call his associates, or, in theory, place actual orders on the real exchange floor should a client insist. But those calls are mostly for show, part of the grand mimicry of high finance. Everything here is arranged just so, to make customers feel they are in a bona fide brokerage instead of a glorified betting parlor. You move behind the counter and open the heavy ledger that Marla, the bookkeeper, uses to track every wager. The ledger's binding cracks softly as you lay it flat. Pages of careful entries, names, dates, stocks, sums, line the columns in Marla's tidy script. By the lamplight last evening, she reconciled the books after market close, and you see the faint imprint of her calculations in the margins. Running your hand lightly over the page, you feel the grooves left by her pen. It strikes you that this ledger holds the fate of many. Each figure represents someone's hope, or fear, a little piece of fortune staked on the market's whims. A slight creak from the back of the office startles you out of your reverie. The door to the tiny back room opens, and Marla herself steps out, already dressed for work in a high-collared blouse and long, dark skirt. Her hair is pinned neatly, though a few wisps escape and catch the morning light like copper threads. She gives you a warm, if tired, smile. "Morning," she says quietly, her voice carrying the gentleness of someone who has been up for hours but still finds peace in the early day. "You're in early," you reply, matching her hushed tone. In the stillness of the office, it feels right to speak softly, as if in a library or a church. Marla lifts a ledger book she's carrying. "Went over the numbers again. I wanted to double-check the accounts before Mr. Cartwright comes in." She glances at the chalkboard in the freshly arranged room. "Looks like you've got everything in order out here. Thank you." You nod, watching as she comes to stand beside you behind the counter. Marla is observant. Her eyes, a thoughtful gray, take in the room and then rest on you with a hint of concern. She's been with Cartwright and Company longer than you have, and in that time she's become something of a mentor figure to you. There's a quiet understanding between you both. Neither of you quite feels at home in the bluster of Wall Street's usual crowd, and perhaps that's why Mr. Cartwright hired you to assist with clerking and whatever needs doing, Marla to keep the books pristine. She sets her ledger down and flips it open to the page she was reviewing. "I'm worried about some of these figures," she says under her breath. With a slender finger, she points to a line item, an outstanding balance next to the name William Billy Finch. You inhale, recognizing the name immediately. Billy Finch is one of the shop's regulars, a charming fellow who's been speculating here nearly every day for months. He's quick with a joke, always dressed a bit too dapper for his own good, and always seems to be chasing yesterday's losses with tomorrow's dreams. You've grown fond of him in a way, but you know his habits all too well. Lately, Billy's luck has been poor, and his debts have been mounting. "He owes quite a sum now," Marla continues in a hushed tone, confirming what you already suspected. She taps the number gently. "Mr. Cartwright extended him credit far beyond what we normally allow." There's a note of disapproval in her voice, carefully controlled. You bite the inside of your cheek. It's not unusual for Mr. Cartwright to do that. He knows that giving a desperate gambler a bit more rope often means they'll hang themselves, financially speaking, and the house will scoop up whatever remains when all is settled. It's an unethical practice, but it's part and parcel of how a bucket shop makes money, by leveraging the bets and drawing customers in deeper. Still, seeing the actual figure Billy owes makes your stomach sink a little. You imagine how that must weigh on him, and perhaps on Marla too, as she tries to keep the accounts balanced. Before you can respond, Marla closes the ledger softly. "Just keep an eye on him today, will you?" she says, her tone both caring and cautious. "He's a good man, even if he's led by his vices. I've tried to hint to him to walk away before it's too late." She sighs and gives a small shrug. "He doesn't listen, but maybe he'll hear reason from you. He seems to like you. You think of Billy's easy laugh and how he claps you on the shoulder when he's particularly excited about a tip on a stock. You aren't sure he would listen to you either if it came to urging caution. After all, if the lure of quick fortune doesn't dissuade him, what could a clerk's advice do? But you promise, Marla, I'll try, if the moment's right." She offers a faint smile. "That's all we can do." There's unspoken understanding that ultimately, Billy will make his own choices. The light outside is growing stronger now, and through the front window you see a few figures passing by on the street. The city is awakening fully. A distant clang of a streetcar bell drifts in, and the pace of footsteps on the sidewalk picks up slightly. Standing in this little office, you feel at once connected to and separate from the world outside. In here, time ticks to the rhythm of the market and the ambitions of those who step through the door. Marla retreats to her desk in the back room with the ledger, giving you a moment alone again. You take the opportunity to neaten the stack of customer tickets on the counter, small rectangular slips of paper that will soon be filled with scribbled orders. Buy 100 shares of this, sell 50 of that, or more aptly in this place, bets on those shares rising or falling. Each slip will eventually be tossed into the wire basket under the counter once recorded, a habit you have, tidying them off the countertop. Some in the industry joke that bucket shops got their name from tossing these tickets into a bucket once the bets were made. You glance at the wire basket, your own modern bucket, and imagine it filling up as the day goes on, each piece of paper a tiny fragment of someone's fortune or folly. A gentle click draws your eye to the gas lamps on the wall. Marla has turned one on in the back, as the window's light doesn't reach her desk. A soft flame flickers inside the frosted glass sconce, casting dancing shadows. The office doesn't yet have full electric lighting. Mr. Cartwright insists the old gas lamps provide a warmer ambiance for his establishment. He says it reminds clients of the solid, traditional offices of years past. In truth, the golden glow does make the room feel cozier, especially in the early morning before the sun climbs high. The lamp's flame reflects off the glass of a framed picture, making the bull and bear scene seem almost alive with flickering motion. As you stand by the counter, you close your eyes for a moment and just listen. The quiet is deep and comforting. You can hear Marla's pen scratching faintly in the other room as she makes a note. There's the steady drip of the coffee pot on the small stove in the corner. You had set it up to percolate earlier, and now the rich, bitter aroma of coffee begins to mingle with the paper and ink scent of the office. You breathe it in and let it calm you. Moments like this, steeped in everyday detail, feel almost meditative. They won't last long. Soon, the clock will strike 9 and then 10, and the world will rush in with clatter and noise. But for now, in this gentle morning interlude, you find a measure of peace and steadiness. You straighten your jacket, run a hand over your neatly combed hair, and prepare yourself mentally for the day. Working here, you've learned, is as much about managing people's anxieties as it is about handling numbers. If you can carry a piece of this morning calm with you, perhaps you can steady the nerves, your own and others, when the speculation starts to swirl. A key jangles in the front door, startling you slightly, even though you've been expecting it. It must be Mr. Cartwright arriving for the day. You instinctively stand a bit taller and smooth your expression, adopting a polite, neutral demeanor. The door swings open, letting in a brief burst of street noise, hoofbeats of a passing dray horse on cobbles, and a snippet of a newsboy's call. Then it closes, and in strides Mr. Reginald Cartwright himself, bringing with him a gust of cool air and the subtle scent of cigars and pomade. Good morning, Mr. Cartwright booms genially, his voice instantly filling the small space. He removes his bowler hat with a flourish. A broad smile sits under his well-tended mustache as he surveys the office. Everything shipshape and Bristol fashion, I see. Yes, sir, all ready for the day, you respond, handing him the few letters that had been slipped under the door overnight, likely statements from the telegraph company or maybe a bill or two. He takes them and nods approvingly at your promptness. Mr. Cartwright is a man in his late 40s with a charismatic presence that belies his average stature. His suit this morning is charcoal gray with faint pinstripes. cut in the modern style, and he wears a burgundy waistcoat beneath, adding a dash of color. A gold watch chain glints across his middle. He looks every inch the successful broker, which of course is the idea. Many a customer has likely been comforted by his confident appearance alone. He glances at the chalkboard. October 3rd, 1906, he reads aloud from what you've written, as if savoring the date. Let's hope it's a profitable one, eh? He winks at you, then scans the list of stocks, nodding at each. Good, good. I suspect U.S. Steel will see some action today. There's talk of a new plant opening, and keep an eye on Consolidated Copper. Rumor has it certain gentlemen are scheming something there. He says this lightly, almost musically, as he moves past the counter. You're not sure if this is idle chatter or if he really has heard insider murmurings. With Mr. Cartwright, it could be either. He's well connected in the undercurrents of the market, especially the shadier corners. Marla emerges to greet him, and he tips his hat to her politely. Morning, Miss Thompson, he says. Burning the midnight oil again, were you? I saw your lamp on when I left last evening. She offers a demure smile. Just finishing the accounts, sir. Everything balances. Her eyes flick briefly to you, but she says nothing of her concerns about Billy's debts. You both know better than to bring that up so directly first thing in the morning. Excellent, Cartwright responds, clapping his hands together softly. I have the utmost faith in you. His tone is warm, almost fatherly. It strikes you yet again how he can be so genial and avuncular, even as he oversees operations that might be considered morally dubious. That charm is a key part of his persona. It puts clients at ease and makes his employees want to please him. With a satisfied sigh, Mr. Cartwright strolls to his desk, a roll top in the corner opposite Marla's area, and sets the letters down. He does not open them yet. Instead, from a drawer, he withdraws a slim stack of printed sheets, the morning's financial news, likely delivered earlier by messenger. Let's see what the Wall Street Journal has for us today, he says mostly to himself, and begins to peruse the pages. You take this moment to pour him a cup of coffee. It's an unspoken part of your duties. The pot is ready, emitting a gentle steam. From the cupboard you retrieve a china cup and saucer, one of a mismatched set that the office keeps. You pour carefully, the dark liquid swirling as it fills the cup. The rich aroma intensifies, and you carry it over to Mr. Cartwright, who accepts it gratefully. You're a saint, my boy, he says softly, taking a sip. Just what the doctor ordered. He turns a page of the newspaper. Over his shoulder, you catch a glimpse of a headline. Money tightens as banks raise rates. Rebuilding San Francisco strains reserves. It reminds you of the stories you've read about the great earthquake that struck San Francisco earlier this year in April. The destruction out west demanded huge sums of money to rebuild, money that in part came from New York's banks and insurers. You've heard some traders muttering that the disaster's ripple effects have drained liquidity from the markets, contributing to volatile swings in stock prices. Some even call it a precursor tremor to a financial quake. But others say that's just fear-mongering, that Wall Street is strong enough to weather anything. Mr. Cartwright seems to linger on that article for a moment, brow faintly furrowed. He doesn't voice any worry, though. Instead, he flips to another story and taps it. HMPH. Roosevelt's trust busting again, he comments, glancing at you to see if you're listening. The president went after another railroad merger last week. Market didn't like that, he tuts softly. That man may be a hero to the public, but he sure gives us headaches in finance. You nod politely. The tug-of-war between President Theodore Roosevelt's reforms and the business giants of the day is a common topic of conversation. Every time Roosevelt targets a large trust or corporation, it sends ripples through stock prices. Early this year, The big railroad companies felt the heat with that Hepburn Act that strengthened regulation. Some say it's necessary to rein in monopolies. Others, like perhaps Mr. Cartwright, view it as meddling that creates uncertainty in the markets. Still, these are larger events, somewhat removed from the everyday dealings of your bucket shop. Your clients here, the likes of Billy Finch, are not magnates worrying about antitrust law. They're everyday folk, or perhaps not so everyday given their gambling streak, trying to snatch a bit of wealth from the market's tides. You return to the counter, giving the office one last look before the doors officially open. It's nearly time. The clock on the wall shows a few minutes to 10. The New York Stock Exchange downtown will ring its opening bell at 10 sharp, and your ticker should start clattering shortly after, transmitting the first trades of the day. There is a particular moment you cherish right before the action begins. The anticipation is palpable but restrained. You might compare it to the hush in a theater just before the curtain lifts. In these seconds, you take a slow, deep breath, centering yourself. You glance at Marla, who meets your eye knowingly. She gives a tiny nod, a silent wish for a smooth day, and then focuses on her papers, a half smile on her lips as if bracing herself too. On cue, the clock strikes 10 with a crisp metallic chime. Almost immediately, the ticker springs to life with a whir of its motor. The sudden noise cuts through the quiet, yet it isn't harsh. Rather, it's rhythmic, a series of quick clicks and clacks, like a small mechanical heartbeat quickening. From its slot, the narrow beige ribbon of paper begins to emerge, spooling into the receiving basket like a pale snake carrying encoded secrets. Ticka ticka ticka, it shatters dutifully, imprinting the first flurry of numbers and symbols of the day. You step over and watch as the tape unspools. Your eyes adjust to reading the tiny printed characters: NYC 115 and a quarter, UST 45 and a half. They're abbreviations of stock names with prices: New York Central Railroad at 115 and a quarter, U.S. Steel at 45 and a half, and so on. The market is open and the pulse has started. You catch the faintest smile on Mr. Cartwright's face as he listens to the ticker's song begin. It's the sound of business and profit. Almost on cue, as if drawn by the ticker's voice, the front door swings open with a jingle from the bell above it. The customers are arriving, those speculators seeking fortune in this little den of wagers. You feel a shift in the atmosphere, from tranquil to lightly charged, though still far from chaotic. The day is young, and so are everyone's hopes. First through the door is, unsurprisingly, Billy Finch. "Top of the morning," Billy calls merrily as he strides in. He doffs his brown fedora in greeting, revealing sandy hair that's a touch disheveled, despite his attempts to slick it down. Billy is in his early 30s, though the faint lines around his eyes and the slight tremor in his hands might make one suspect he's older. The wear of sleepless nights and too much bourbon, perhaps. Nonetheless, he carries an easy charm, with a grin that can brighten a room and a twinkle in his blue eyes that speaks of both mischief and desperation, intertwined. "Morning, Billy," you reply with a friendly wave. You notice Marla looking up from her desk. She gives Billy a polite nod, but you catch the crease of worry in her brow before she returns her attention to her work. Hot on Billy's heels come two more regular patrons. Mr. Thompson, an older gentleman who used to work as a clerk in a shipping firm and now spends retirement days here for excitement, and young Charlie Myers, barely out of his teens, an errand boy from a nearby warehouse who sneaks in during his breaks to try his luck with spare coins. Each offers a greeting as they step inside, drawn by the siren song of the ticker and the greenback dreams it represents. In minutes, the once quiet office warms with low chatter and subdued energy. You note how the customers naturally arrange themselves. Mr. Thompson settles into one of the leather chairs with a newspaper, playing it calm and collected. Charlie perches near the ticker, craning to see the tape as it spills out, his youth and inexperience betrayed by the eager bounce in his step. Billy, meanwhile, sidles up to the counter, where you stand ready with your pad and pencil to record any bets. Billy drums his fingers lightly on the wood, eyes flicking between the chalkboard, where you're now updating the first quotes of the day from the ticker, and your face. "So, what's the word, maestro?" he asks in a conspiratorial tone, as if you have some secret to share. "The tape singing a sweet tune this morning?" You respond by reading off a couple of the latest quotes as you chalk them. U.S. Steel, 45.5, up a quarter from yesterday's close. Pennsylvania Railroad, unchanged at 89 even. Consolidated Copper, you pause as the tape reveals the price. Consolidated Copper, 32, down a half. Billy lets out a little hum at that last bit of news. Down a half, eh? Might be a chance to buy the dip, he muses aloud, though in this shop that means placing a bet that the price will rebound. Mr. Cartwright, who's stepped out from his desk with coffee in hand, interjects smoothly. Heard a fellow say that copper might see a jump later today. Some talk of a new vein discovered out west. His tone is casual, but it's exactly the kind of comment to spur a speculator's appetite. Billy's eyes light up as expected. Is that so? A new vein? That could mean a spike in price, surely. Mr. Cartwright smiles over the rim of his cup. It could, or it might be just a rumor. The market will tell us soon enough. He then moves off to greet Mr. Thompson, leaving that tempting tidbit dangling in Billy's mind. Billy, as expected, cannot resist the bait. He leans on the counter a little closer, lowering his voice, as if sharing a confidential plan. "I'll take a flutter on Consolidated Copper," he says, reaching into his coat pocket. You see a flash of bills. Let's say $50 that it'll rise. If it's 32 now, maybe it hits 34 or higher by the afternoon. What do you think? You maintain a neutral smile, not endorsing his gamble. But inwardly, you know $50 is a sizable bet for Billy these days, especially given what you saw in the ledger. If he loses this, his debt will deepen. Still, it's your job to take the order, not to question it. Gently, you reply, "Certainly, Billy. $50 on Consolidated Copper to rise." He slides the bills across to you, and you count them deftly. His hands are a bit unsteady. You can't help but notice the frayed cuff of his shirt as he does so, a sign that his habit is taking a toll on his wardrobe at least. You write out a ticket for his bet, careful to include the stock, the amount, and the current price as a reference. Billy's surname goes on the top line. He watches you write, rocking a little on his heels with nervous energy, or perhaps excitement. Once done, you tear off the ticket's duplicate. One copy for him, one stays in the book for the house. You hand Billy his copy. "Good luck," you say softly. He grins and tucks the paper into his vest pocket with a pat, as if it were already a winning lottery ticket. "Luck's gonna turn for me, I feel it," he replies, voice full of hope. "Maybe today's the day." There's an almost childlike optimism in his declaration, and it tugs at something in you. These moments are the heart of the bucket shop's paradox. It lives on people's dreams and wagers. Each person walking in brings a blend of hope and desperation, and the room swirls with those emotions under the surface. As an employee, you stand at the eye of that quiet storm, calm, facilitating, yet not immune to feeling the human weight of it. Billy steps aside to let Charlie have a go at the counter. The young messenger flushes with excitement, slapping down a crumpled $10 bill and breathlessly asking to put it on U.S. Steel rising. You handle his transaction with a polite nod, writing the new ticket as the boy chats about how he overheard someone say U.S. steel is destined to go up, up, up. You refrain from commenting, merely noting the price change as the ticker reports U.S. steel now at 45 3/4. When Charlie scampers off to watch the board, ticket in hand, you again update the chalk numbers. All the while, the ticker keeps on printing, its chatter forming a constant backdrop. You hear it like a mechanical cricket, chirping away at varying speeds. Sometimes it slows to just a tick, 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 and then, when a burst of trades comes through, it races. Ticka, 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 spitting out a flurry of information. It's amazing how the sound alone can convey the market's tempo, sedate or frenzied. In a lull of customer activity, you take a second to sip some coffee yourself and glance at the tape. Part of your job is to stay alert to any noteworthy moves, so you can update the board promptly and answer if a client asks, "What's XYZ trading at now?" You catch a snippet about a trust company, Knickerbocker Trust, mentioned in a line of news on the tape. It's not a stock price, but sometimes the ticker prints brief news bulletins. The tape says something like Nick, trust reserves low. Unverified rumor. Your brow furrows at that. Knickerbocker is one of the big trust companies here in New York. A rumor about low reserves that sends a chill through you for some reason. But just as quickly as that message came, the ticker returns to prices. The customers in the room either didn't notice it or didn't understand its import. Before you can dwell on it, Mr. Cartwright appears at your side. He has a habit of moving quite silently for a man of his presence. "Everything under control?" he asks quietly. It's both a question and a reassurance. He likes to check in periodically, a reminder of his oversight. "Yes, sir," you reply. "Quite under control." You hand him the small stack of completed tickets so far. He likes to thumb through them occasionally to gauge the morning's action. He scans them and you see him note Billy's bet. "Good, good," Cartwright says softly, patting the tickets against his palm. Then, leaning just a little closer to you, he lowers his voice further. "Keep an eye on young Finch, will you? If he overextends, let me know." You nod, a subtle understanding passing between you. The boss is aware of Billy's situation, of course, and he probably shares Marla's concern, but for a different reason. He wants to ensure Billy's debts don't get so out of hand that they become a problem for the shop to collect, or worse, that Billy causes a scene. Mr. Cartwright's concern is practical, not exactly compassionate, though he couches it in a friendly way. He then straightens up and flashes his genial smile again. With a light tap on the counter, he adds in a normal tone, "Carry on then," and returns to mingle with the customers, pausing to exchange pleasantries with Mr. Thompson about some steamship stock. Morning advances steadily. Through the window, you notice the angle of sunlight shifting, the patches of light on the floor creeping towards the door as the sun climbs higher. The flow of patrons in and out is gentle. A few more familiar faces come by to place their bets or simply to watch the board for a while. One man, in work overalls, clearly on a break from a factory nearby, comes in just long enough to check the quote on a mining stock and sigh disappointedly before leaving. Perhaps he had bought it elsewhere and just wanted to see how it was doing. The atmosphere in the bucket shop remains calm, subdued. People talk in low voices. There's no shouting or frantic gesticulation like you'd imagine on the actual exchange floor. Part of that is Mr. Cartwright's influence. He encourages a gentlemanly environment. The other part is that most of the stakes here, though large to the individuals, are not enormous enough to provoke outcries at every tick. At least not on an ordinary day. As you post another update on the board, you hear Marla in the back clearing her throat softly. You glance over. She stands at her desk, ledger in hand, and catches your eye. With a minute tilt of her head, She signals she needs a word with you. You respond with a slight nod and take the opportunity, when no one is immediately needing you at the counter, to step back towards her. She meets you just at the threshold of the back room, out of earshot of the customers. In her hand is a folded slip of paper. "I found this tucked in the ledger," she whispers, concern in her voice. She opens her palm to show you. It's a handwritten IOU, a promise of payment. The scrawl is Billy's, and it lists an amount, an additional $40 he promised to bring in to cover a margin call from 2 days ago. Your heart sinks a little seeing that. If he's writing IOUs, it means he didn't have cash to settle a losing bet earlier this week and persuaded Mr. Cartwright, or Marla, to let him pay later. You recall that day. Yes, Billy had been flushed and upset after a sharp drop in a stock caught him out. You hadn't realized an IOU was the result. Marla likely agreed to it under Mr. Cartwright's direction. "He hasn't paid it yet," Marla murmurs, "and now he's in for $50 more today." She doesn't need to spell out her worry. It's all over her face. "I'll talk to him," you say quietly. She touches your arm lightly, an unusual gesture for her, showing the depth of her worry. "Be careful. I know you want to help him, but just be gentle." Billy's pride is wrapped up in this, and so is Mr. Cartwright's patience. You nod solemnly and slip the IOU note back to her. "I understand." Returning to the main room, you see Billy by the ticker, one foot on the low stool there, leaning in as if closer proximity might change the numbers in his favor. The board shows consolidated copper still around $32 one quarter, fluctuating a bit, but not yet the jump he hoped for. Billy's face is a study in suppressed anxiety. He tries to maintain a half smile in case anyone looks at him, but you can tell his mind is churning. You approach him softly. "How's it looking?" you ask, keeping your tone light. He shrugs, forcing a grin. "Early yet. These things take time. Perhaps by lunchtime we'll hear that news Mr. Cartwright mentioned, and copper will shoot up a point or two." He tries to sound confident, but his eyes betray the question, what if it doesn't? You decide now might be a chance to gently broach the subject. If it doesn't pan out, you could always close the bet early, take a small loss before it grows. This bucket shop does sometimes allow customers to settle bets before the market closes, taking or paying the difference as things stand. It's not often encouraged, but for someone like Billy, it might limit the damage. Billy looks at you sharply for a moment, pride flickering in his eyes. "And miss the rebound? Nah, I've got faith in this one." You heard Cartwright. New copper find likely. It's practically a sure thing. He says it with the bravado of a gambler doubling down, but there's a slight tremor in his voice. You nod quietly. "Just thought I'd mention it. You know, some folks set a stop in their mind to not lose more than they can handle." He smiles at you a bit more genuinely then, appreciating the sentiment. "I know you're looking out for me. You're a good lad. Don't worry, I can handle this." He pats your shoulder, then gestures to the tape. "Besides, the day's just starting. Anything can happen." It's true, anything can, good or bad. You give him a polite smile and step back to the counter as another client approaches. Inside, though, you worry that Billy's definition of what he can handle is far beyond what it should be. Not for the first time, you reflect on the paradox of your position. You left a life of hardship behind, scrabbling to survive, to find yourself here, in a house that preys on people's risky dreams. It's a respectable job on the surface. You wear a tie and handle money and figures rather than shovels or brooms. Your mother, God rest her soul, would have been proud to see you looking so sharp and educated. Yet, she was a woman who believed in honest work and fair dealing, and you wonder how she'd feel knowing that the firm you work for takes advantage of the unwary and the desperate. Out on the street, a vendor calls his wares, and the clop of hooves draws your gaze briefly out the window. You see a flower cart passing by, the owner singing a snatch of a tune. For a heartbeat, it's surreal. Life out there goes on with simple normalcy, while in here, the fortunes of men turn on a dime, and the day has only begun. As the morning wears on toward midday, a natural lull begins to settle in. The initial burst of trading activity calms. The ticker's once frenetic chatter slows to a more measured tick-tick, reflecting the quieter, late-morning trades. A few customers peel away to tend to their own noon-hour needs. Mr. Thompson folds his newspaper and rises from his leather chair with a soft groan, joking to Mr. Cartwright that he's off to feed the beast, by which he means his stomach, and will return later to see how the afternoon develops. Young Charlie, the messenger boy, glances at the wall clock and realizes he's overstayed his break. With a start, he dashes out, thanking you hurriedly, and nearly forgetting the hat he'd set on the windowsill. By 12:30, only a couple of patrons remain, Billy being one of them. He lingers near the ticker, unwilling to miss any potential news. His earlier bravado has quieted into a watchful silence. Consolidated copper has not moved much. It bobbed up a bit, then drifted down again. At last, quote, it's around $32.38, only slightly above where it was when he placed his bet. Not enough to make a difference for him yet. He runs a hand through his hair absently and checks his pocket watch, perhaps considering a break himself. Sensing the quieter interval, Mr. Cartwright steps forward and announces genially to the room, "Gentlemen, it's lunchtime. The market takes a breath, and so should we. We'll keep the quotes coming, of course, but do feel free to step out and refresh yourselves. We'll be here." It's his polite way of nudging out anyone who might be camped anxiously. Sometimes a breather prevents rash decisions from stewing during idle minutes. Billy hesitates. "Maybe I'll grab a quick bite at the deli," he says to you, finally deciding. You nod in encouragement. A bit of food and distance might do him good. He still looks hesitant to leave the tape's side, but he tips his hat to you and heads toward the door. "Be back soon," he murmurs. "Keep an eye on copper for me, eh?" "Of course," you answer with a small smile. "I'll let you know if you miss anything big." With that, Billy exits into the street, leaving the office momentarily empty of customers. Mr. Cartwright wanders to the back room, perhaps to make a private phone call or check some papers. Marla emerges and stretches her arms slightly, rubbing the back of her neck. You both exchange a glance of mutual relief at the respite. "I'm going to step outside for a minute," you tell her. "Get a bit of fresh air." She gives you a knowing nod. "Go on, I'll mind the fort. I could use some fresh air myself in a bit." You grab your coat from the hook and slip out the front door. Outside, Manhattan greets you with a rush of midday life. The air is crisp with early autumn. There's a hint of chill under the sunshine. On the bustling street, people weave past each other. Messenger boys darting with envelopes in hand, ladies in smart hats, and gentlemen in suits heading to lunch appointments, laborers carrying tools heading back to work. The city's energy is a living thing, vibrant but not overwhelming, at least not to you, who has known these streets all your life. You take a few steps to the curb and breathe deeply. The smell of roasting chestnuts from a street vendor's cart down the block mixes with the aroma of fresh bread from the bakery at the corner. These earthy, comforting scents ground you in reality, a contrast to the somewhat artificial world of tickers and chalkboards inside. Out here, people are concerned with tangible things, food, errands, conversation, rather than the flicker of numbers on a tape. A newsboy wanders by, calling headlines in a melodic shout, "Extra! Extra! Money troubles out west. Read all about it." He waves the afternoon edition of the paper. The headline he's hollering is likely about the ongoing effects of the San Francisco earthquake recovery, or maybe something about tight credit. You recall that snippet about Knickerbocker Trust you saw on the ticker earlier. Perhaps that rumor is making small waves. The crowd, however, seems to pay the boy little attention, just another alarmist headline among many. New Yorkers have seen their share of financial scares, and not every cry of wolf heralds disaster. You buy a paper from the boy anyway, tossing him a coin and ruffling his cap in thanks. Scanning the front page, you indeed find a column on rising interest rates and the strain on banks due to gold flowing out for San Francisco's rebuilding. There's mention of how the Bank of England's tightening last year and insurance payouts have made money dear. The article speculates on whether New York's trusts are overextended. One line jumps out. Some whispers compare the conditions to those before the Panic of '93. You press your lips together at that. The Panic of 1893 was a dire memory for many older folks, a time of bank failures and economic depression. You were just a child then, but you remember your father losing his job at the print works, the soup lines that snaked around the block, and your family's worry etched on every face. The idea that something like that could happen again sends a small shiver through you. You fold the paper under your arm, suddenly grateful for the sunshine on your face. Focus on the present, you tell yourself. These are rumors and speculation. Nothing concrete has happened yet. And besides, what can you do about such grand matters? You're just one small clerk in one small shop. Strolling a few doors down, you find the corner deli and step inside. It's warm and fragrant with cured meats and mustard. You order a sandwich, simple ham on rye, and while the man behind the counter prepares it, you let your mind wander. The morning's events replay gently: Billy's anxious face, Marla's worried whisper, Mr. Cartwright's confident smile hiding who knows what calculations. As you stand there, you notice a reflection of yourself in a glass jar on the counter, distorted by the curve. For a moment you see not a young clerk in a tidy suit, but a boy with dirt on his cheeks and hungry eyes, staring back. It's a trick of the light and your imagination, but it makes your heart squeeze. That was you once, hungry in more ways than one. Hungry for food, for stability, for a chance to be part of the world of those moneyed gentlemen you watched from afar. You got your chance, didn't you? Now you're on the inside, wearing the suit, speaking the language of stocks and trade. You should feel proud, and part of you does. Yet another part of you wonders if you've merely traded one kind of hunger for another. The sandwich arrives wrapped in paper. You pay and step out again, deciding to walk back slowly while eating. Each bite is a welcome balm. You hadn't realized how tense you were until the act of chewing and the taste of tangy mustard and savory ham brings you back to earth. The simple meal reminds you of childhood lunches, your mother packing you bread and cheese when times were lean, adding a dab of mustard if she could spare it because she knew you liked the flavor. A pang of nostalgia washes over you, bitter and sweet. Sandwich finished, you ball up the paper and toss it in a rubbish bin by a lamppost. Taking a final moment, you gaze down the street toward the financial district. From here, you can see a sliver of Wall Street itself, and beyond it, the tall facade of a bank building, columns gleaming. Somewhere behind those walls, titans like J.P. Morgan might be dining in wood-paneled rooms or planning the next market move. The thought is surreal, the enormous gulf between their world and yours, and yet, when the dominoes of high finance topple, it's the little people who often get crushed. With a shake of your head, you dispel such heavy thoughts. It's time to return. Marla will want her break too, and the afternoon session beckons. The world may be uncertain and complex, but your immediate duty is clear. Go back inside and do your job, one step at a time. You push open the door of Cartwright & Company and re-enter the softly lit interior. The contrast is striking. Outside, midday light and noise. Inside, a hushed enclave of ticking machines and murmured voices. The gas lights flicker gently on the walls, as if beckoning you back into this other reality. Marla greets you with a small smile. "Sandwich?" she asks, sniffing the air playfully. "Ham on rye," you confirm, patting your stomach. "Can I fetch you something? I could mind the shop if you want to step out for lunch." She shakes her head. "I brought an apple and some bread. I'll nibble here, thank you." Likely she prefers to save money, or perhaps she doesn't like leaving the numbers unattended for too long. With that, Marla does indeed retreat to the back for a short break, biting into a green apple quietly at her desk. Mr. Cartwright reappears from wherever he had been, looking unperturbed as ever. "Everything all right?" he inquires out of habit. "Yes, sir. All well," you reply. "Quiet lunchtime." He nods and glances at the ticker tape that accumulated while you were out. He lazily feeds it through his fingers to catch up on any midday updates. Nothing dramatic from his expression. Likely routine price fluctuations. He doesn't mention the news or rumors, at least not to you. Before long, Billy Finch returns. The bell jingles as he steps in a bit of a rush. He's slightly out of breath, as if he walked briskly or ran back. "Did I miss anything?" he asks immediately, eyes darting to the board and then to you. "Not much movement," you assure him. "Consolidated copper's still around 32, a little up and down, but no big swing." He exhales, whether in relief or frustration it's hard to tell. "All right, good, good." He resumes his post near the board. There's a faint stain on his vest, soup, maybe from lunch, and a dot of perspiration on his temple that he dabs with a handkerchief. Poor Billy, you think. Even lunch couldn't have been peaceful for him. His mind must have been here the whole time. The clock's hands crawl past 1 and approach 2. The autumn light outside softens, angling through the windows in golden slants. This is often when the market livens up again for its final act of the day. Traders who held back in the morning might make their moves now, and news that percolated over lunch can spring into action. Sure enough, not long after 2 o'clock, the ticker begins to speed up, chattering briskly. You catch sight of sudden shifts on the tape, one stock or another making a jump or plunge, though at first it's nothing concerning your customers. It is Billy who first senses something. He has been watching the board and tape like a hawk. Suddenly he straightens. "Look there," he says, trying to keep his voice even but unable to hide a quiver of excitement. He points at the ticker tape that you're already reaching for. The machine clacks out the latest. Cons copper, 33.5, 33.75, 34. The price is rising rapidly. Your eyebrows lift. That's a significant jump in a short span. Something's up. Perhaps Mr. Cartwright's rumor is coming true after all. Maybe word spread of that supposed new copper vein, or some speculator started a buying spree. Billy's face lights up with an almost childlike glee. This is what he's been waiting for. 34, he says, and for the first time today he lets himself grin wide. For a moment you feel a rush of happiness on his behalf. It's as if a cloud lifted and a sunbeam hit him full on. He turns to you eagerly. "What does that net me, roughly?" he asks, waving his ticket. "From 32 to 34 on $50. Should be a nice profit, right?" You do a quick mental calculation. In a proper trade, a 2-point rise on however many shares $50 controlled could indeed mean a tidy sum. perhaps he stands to double his money or more. But you also know that in this bucket shop, exact terms can be flexible. Let's see, you say, keeping your tone neutral. If you close out now, you'd be up roughly. Before you can finish, Mr. Cartwright appears at Billy's side with a silky interjection. "Patience, my friend, patience," he coos to Billy. "Why stop at 34? If the news is good, it could go to 35, 36 even. Don't you want to maximize your gain?" You inwardly flinch. The prudent move for Billy would indeed be to take his profit now, finally to have a win, and a significant one at that, after all his losses. But Mr. Cartwright is dangling the prospect of even more, playing right into Billy's greed, or hope, or both. Billy hesitates, the internal tug of war clear on his face. "You think it'll go higher?" he asks. Mr. Cartwright smiles, not outright confirming, but enough of a glimmer in his eye. "It's got momentum. If it were me, I might hold a bit longer. But of course, it's your call." He pats Billy on the back amicably and strolls away as if the matter is trivial. Billy bites his lip, looking back at the board. $34 1/4. You chalk the new price that just came through. It's still climbing. That resolves him. "I'll wait," he says, mostly to himself. "Just a bit more." You want to protest gently, to remind him of the old saying about bulls and bears making money but pigs getting slaughtered, a caution against greed. But it's not your place, especially not after the boss himself nudged him to hold. Another minute ticks by. The ticker prints $34 1/2. Billy's eyes gleam. This is likely the biggest upswing he's personally caught in a long while. His foot taps nervously. You can almost see him picturing the winnings. And then, as swiftly as it rose, Consolidated Copper falters. $34 1/4, 34, 33 7/8. The quotes slip back a bit on the tape. Billy murmurs, leaning in, his breath held. Stocks often retrace slightly, even in a climb, so he's not panicking yet. But he looks at you and half smiles. "Maybe I'll cash out at 34 if it hits again." You nod, ready to help him do just that. You even pull his ticket slip from the file, preparing to mark it sold at his request. However, fate or something else intervenes. The ticker suddenly stops printing for a few long seconds. A silence falls, broken only by the rustle of paper as the tape hangs, blank. You tap the glass of the ticker. Sometimes the telegraph line has momentary pauses, or the exchange feed hiccups. Mr. Thompson, who had returned and was quietly watching the spectacle from the side, lets out a small teazosh, waiting for the quote to resume. When the ticker stutters back to life, the price that comes out is $33 3/8, lower than where it was moments ago. A frown creases Billy's brow. "What happened to 34? Did it not go back up?" he asks, perplexed. It all occurred so fast, and the tape's hiccup didn't show a sale at 34.5 or higher. You share his perplexity. It's possible the stock peaked at 34.5 and then slid, never touching 35. The tape might have simply paused during the peak moment. Or another thought strikes you, an uncomfortable one. You recall reading that some bucket shop operators have tricks to manipulate the feed, or at least what the customers see. Could Mr. Cartwright have intervened somehow? There's no obvious way. He was across the room, but the timing of that pause is odd. Billy runs a hand through his hair again, agitation rising. It was just $34 1/2. Now it's $33 3/8? That can't be right, can it? He looks to you for answers. You swallow, keeping your face as composed as possible. Stocks can be volatile. Maybe some profit-taking happened. You hate how vague that sounds, but you cannot very well say what you suspect. Not without evidence. and not to a client. Mr. Cartwright approaches again, wearing a concerned frown that might even be genuine. Markets can turn on a sixpence, he sighs. Unfortunate, Billy. Seems someone dumped shares and drove it down. Billy's face flushes with disappointment and something like betrayal. I should have cashed out, he murmurs, almost dazed. I had it right there. Mr. Cartwright lays a hand on his shoulder in consolation. There may yet be another rally. Don't lose heart. But you catch a slight exchange of glances between Cartwright and Marla, who has been watching tensely from her desk. She quickly looks down when Billy glances her way. From here, the mood shifts palpably. The fervent hope that electrified Billy moments ago dissipates into a kind of frantic resolve. The quotes for Consolidated Copper continue to jitter. $33 one quarter, 33.5, 33.25. It's as if the stock is trying to decide whether to climb again or collapse. Billy's reaction is to double down. I'll put more on it, he says suddenly, turning to you with wild eyes. Another $50. It's going to rebound. He pulls out his wallet with trembling hands. Alarm bells ring in your mind. This is no longer calculated risk. This is chasing. And given his ledger balance, this is the last thing he should do. Out of the corner of your eye, you see Marla half stand as if she might object, but then she stops herself, lips pressed thin. You try to reason gently. Billy, maybe wait a few minutes? See direction. But Mr. Cartwright interrupts, smooth and swift. If the young man has confidence, who are we to thwart him? His eyes flick to the money in Billy's hand. Though phrased politely, it's clear he won't refuse the bet. Billy slaps the bills on the counter, jaw set. Yes, confidence, but you see fear in his face, the desperate need to make up for the lost peak. Put it in at $33 one quarter, he instructs. That's roughly where it is now. Hands almost moving of their own accord, you fill out a new ticket for Billy, another $50 on Consolidated Copper, to rise from the low 33s back into the mid-34s or higher. This effectively doubles his stake. If the stock does rebound past $34, he could recover his missed profit and then some. If it sinks, you try not to think of that. You note the transaction in the ledger as well, feeling a weight in your chest. This is the ethical crossroads you dreaded. Every instinct in you screams that this is wrong. Taking more of his money when he's clearly not thinking straight, when the house likely already intends to ensure he doesn't win big. And yet, you process the bet. That's what you are here to do. Your position, your need for this job, and maybe even a faint sliver of hope that Billy might just get lucky compel you to go along. Marla has left her desk now and comes to stand quietly behind you, as if drawn by concern. Mr. Cartwright steps away, humming softly, perhaps sensing that his presence might aggravate Billy at this delicate juncture, or maybe because his work encouraging the wager is done. The office has grown still. Even the other customers who were chatting have fallen silent, watching this drama unfold with sympathy or morbid curiosity. Mr. Thompson clears his throat and pretends to read his paper, but his eyes keep darting up. A heavy-set man near the door, who had been eyeing some other stock earlier, simply shakes his head slowly. This kind of scene is not unheard of in bucket shops. A patron on the brink, risking it all. It usually doesn't end well. The ticker ticks on, the only sound in the room besides Billy's heavy breathing. All eyes are now on the tape or the board. $33, 32 3/4, you write on the board, hand barely steady. The downward ticks draw a soft grunt from Billy, as if each fraction were a body blow. Then, a pause and a small uptick, $33 again. Perhaps the start of the rebound? Billy licks his lips. Come on, he whispers under his breath. Come on, you. he doesn't finish the sentence, as though it's a prayer he can't utter fully, or a horse he's trying not to spook. For a minute or two, Consolidated Copper flutters around 33, up an eighth, down an eighth. The world narrows to that one number. You're updating the board in almost real time now, piece by piece, chalk smudging under your sweating fingers. In the midst of this, the telephone rings, a jarring intrusion. Both you and Marla flinch at the sound. Mr. Cartwright strides to answer it, but not before casting a quick glance at the board. You catch a flicker of something in his expression, concern or annoyance that he masks as he lifts the receiver. He speaks quietly into it, but you're far too preoccupied to decipher his words. Suddenly, the ticker jumps and speeds up, printing rapidly a series of numbers for various stocks. It's like a storm of data. You sift through, searching for copper's symbol. There, it appears amidst the flurry, $31 1/2. Wait, what? Did it just drop 1.5 in one go? You freeze, double-checking to ensure you read that right. Billy sees your face and practically lunges forward. What is it? What's the price? Your throat goes dry. It's showing 31.5, you say quietly. The room seems to tilt as you speak the words. No, Billy says, voice cracking. That can't be. There must be a mistake. He grabs the tape from your hands to see for himself, eyes wild. The tape doesn't lie, though. Multiple trades at $31 1/2, $31 5/8. It's clearly dropped significantly. Perhaps some large holder unloaded shares, where the rumor proved false and speculators bailed. Whatever the cause, the effect is ruinous for Billy's position. In a bucket shop, a swing that large means Billy's entire stake is likely wiped out. The house terms often allow them to close a bet if the price moves too far against the customer, zeroing them out. Whether or not Mr. Cartwright will enforce that immediately, the implications hang in the air. Billy's face has gone ashen. For a heartbeat, he is silent, just staring at the tape as if hoping it will reel back and show a different number. Then he slumps against the counter. The transformation is heartbreaking. All that nervous energy drains out, leaving him looking years older, defeated. I've lost, he whispers, voice hollow. All of it gone. The reality crashes down on him in that moment. He doesn't quite weep, but his eyes glisten and his shoulders tremble. A profound silence follows. Even the ticker seems to quiet, or perhaps it's just drowned out by the heavy drum of your own pulse in your ears. You feel an immense sorrow and guilt. More than anything, you wish you could turn back time by just 15 minutes. If only you'd insisted he take the profit at 34, or if you had refused to log his second bet. If. But it's too late. The numbers are on the board, literally, and they spell his ruin. Marla steps forward and very gently says, Billy. She uses his first name, a tenderness and familiarity that makes him look up. She extends a hand as if to touch his arm, but stops just short, not sure if the gesture would be welcome or appropriate. Mr. Cartwright finishes his phone call and approaches. His face is composed, but there's a tightness around his eyes that wasn't there before. Perhaps the phone call bore more bad news. Maybe something about the market's instability, but right now, all attention is on Billy. To his minimal credit, Mr. Cartwright doesn't gloat or chastise. He clears his throat softly. I'm truly sorry, Mr. Finch, he says, and for once his voice is subdued, lacking its usual bravado. Stocks are a risky game. Days like this, well, they're what we all fear. He sighs and then, businesslike, slides the ledger towards himself to confirm the final tally. We'll have to square your account, of course. Perhaps we can arrange a payment plan for what's owed beyond your deposits." That snaps Billy out of his stupor briefly. He straightens and a flash of anger or indignation sparks. "Payment plan? I've already given you everything," he snarls, not loudly but with a raw edge. "You extended credit, you." He stops himself, breathing hard, a vein on his neck visible. He's on the verge of saying something accusatory, you suspect, perhaps about feeling misled or cheated. His eyes dart to you, to Marla, perhaps gauging if either of you would back him up if he voiced his suspicions that the game was rigged. Marla looks away, pained. You feel frozen, caught between empathy for Billy and loyalty, or at least obligation, to your employer. Mr. Cartwright's expression hardens just a touch. His response is gentle but firm. "William, you were aware of the risks. Every client signs an understanding of that." He gestures to a framed disclaimer on the wall about speculative transactions. "I gave you leeway out of goodwill. We'll find a way for you to make good on the remaining dues, I'm sure. We can discuss it later, in private." The emphasis on that last word and the slightest narrowing of Cartwright's eyes convey a warning. Don't cause a scene. Billy trembles with emotion, anger, shame, despair, all intermingled. The fight goes out of him in an exhale. He nods once, curtly, not trusting himself to speak further. With shaky hands, he gathers his hat from the counter. He briefly meets your eyes. What you see in his is gut-wrenching, a mix of humiliation and pleading, as if asking silently, "How did it come to this?" You wish there were something you could do or say, but under Mr. Cartwright's watchful gaze, and with other patrons around, you feel powerless. All you manage is a quiet, "Take care, Billy." It sounds pathetically insufficient, even to your own ears. Billy draws a long breath, puts on his hat with a jerk, and walks to the door on unsteady legs. No one tries to stop him. As he opens it, the afternoon light slices across the floor. He pauses, one foot outside, and without turning, he mutters in a broken voice, "Maybe tomorrow." It's unclear what he means. Maybe that he'll figure something out tomorrow, or perhaps that he clings to hope the sun will rise on a better day somehow. Then he exits, the door closing softly behind him. You're left staring at the empty space where he stood. The shop feels emptier than it should, even with a couple of other people still present. Mr. Thompson, the older gentleman, lets out a low sigh and gets up, placing a comforting hand on your shoulder for a brief moment. "Hard luck," he murmurs, perhaps meaning for Billy. Perhaps for all of you who had to witness that. He then quietly takes his leave as well, not wanting to linger in the shadow of misfortune. The heavy-set man by the door also departs with a sympathetic nod. It's as though a cloud of melancholy has settled in the room, and none of the customers wish to remain in it. Now it's just you, Marla, and Mr. Cartwright. The ticker still murmurs, oblivious to human dramas. You notice with grim irony that Consolidated Copper has ticked back up to $32 now that Billy is gone, far below what he needed, but a slight recovery nonetheless. It feels like a cruel joke by the market or fate. Marla breaks the silence. "I'll update the ledger," she says softly, her tone devoid of any satisfaction. She takes the book and begins writing, likely recording the closure of Billy's positions with zero balance and the debt he owes. Her pen scratches quietly, an accusatory sound in the hush. Mr. Cartwright goes to the front door and briefly flips the sign to "Closed," though the market has not quite ended for the day. Under the circumstances, no new business is likely to come in now, and he perhaps wants to avoid any further drama. Or maybe he just needs a moment to compose himself. He returns towards the counter, and as he passes you, he says under his breath, "These things happen. Don't take it on your shoulders, son. It's the closest he'll come to acknowledging the emotional impact. You're not sure if it's meant kindly or as a gentle rebuke to remain professional. He then walks past to the back room, possibly to make another phone call or to pour himself something stronger than coffee from the cabinet. He disappears and you hear the faint click of a cupboard door. You and Marla remain at the counter. She finishes her entries and closes the ledger quietly. When she finally looks up at you, her eyes are shiny with unshed tears. "I'm sorry," you both say at the same time, then exchange a sad half-smile at the jinx. She clears her throat. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. I know you wanted to help him." You swallow the lump in your throat. "We both did." Marla bows her head. A strand of her hair falls loose, and she tucks it back absently. "You did what you could under the circumstances. We can't force people to save themselves." You hear the self-comforting tone in her voice. Clearly she's said this to herself before, perhaps many times over the years here, watching other Billy Finches meet similar fates. Quietly she continues, "My father was like that, you know." She hasn't spoken of her family before, so you listen intently, not with stocks, but with cards and drink. He'd win a bit, then lose more, double down, chasing the high or trying to claw back the losses. It eventually ruined him, ruined us. Her voice is steady, but the pain behind it is evident. "I had hoped, working here, maybe I could prevent others from going that far, or at least understand it. But I've learned some people, they have to reach their own conclusions." She turns her hand over under yours and gives it a light squeeze. You followed Mr. Cartwright's lead, and Billy made his choices. We're cogs in a machine as much as anyone. It's hard to step out of it. She offers a bittersweet smile. If you or I had refused Billy's trades, he might have just gone to another shop or been angry with us. Maybe it would have saved him today, maybe not. We can't know. You nod, trying to accept her words. Still, the guilt weighs heavy. From the back room, you both hear Mr. Cartwright's muffled voice on the telephone again, and a phrase catches your attention. "If Knickerbocker goes under, it'll spook everyone, and Morgan can't backstop all of them." He's talking faster and more sternly than you've ever heard him. The door is mostly closed, but you and Marla exchange looks. There's that mention of Knickerbocker Trust again, and the name Morgan. It sounds serious. Marla's eyes widen, confirming she hears it too. She leans closer and whispers, "Sounds like something's brewing. He mentioned Morgan, as in J.P. Morgan." You recall the newspaper and ticker tidbits. Could it be that the boss is hearing confirmed whispers of a brewing bank panic or a market crash? If that's so, everything that happened today with Billy might just be the prelude to even bigger troubles. Your stomach tightens. If a panic truly strikes, banks failing, stocks plummeting, bucket shops like this would be hit hard. Customers wouldn't be coming to bet on rising stocks in a crash. More likely, they'd all panic to withdraw any balances. Or the shop itself could be in jeopardy if the exchange pulls its ticker service, or if the law intervenes amidst the chaos. The telephone conversation ends abruptly. A moment later, Mr. Cartwright returns to the main room, hat in hand. His genial mask is back up, but you can tell it's strained. "I've got to step out for a bit," he announces briskly, not quite meeting your eyes. "Important business uptown. Will you two be all right to close up?" It's not really a question. He expects you will be. You and Marla nod. "Of course, sir," Marla says. "We'll reconcile the day's accounts and secure everything." "Good," he replies. He puts on his bowler and adjusts his coat. "And chin up, both of you. Rough day, but tomorrow's another." He attempts a reassuring smile. "Perhaps treat yourselves to a nice dinner. On me." He fishes out a couple of dollars from his wallet and places the notes on the counter. A gesture of goodwill or guilt, perhaps both. "Thank you for your hard work." With that and a tip of his hat, he strides out, undoubtedly to confer with his fellow financiers or to make arrangements should worse come to worst. The door shuts, leaving you and Marla alone in the office. For a moment, the two of you stand in silence, processing his departure. The daylight has begun to wane, and the corners of the office grow dimmer, the gaslight now more visibly casting its warm glow. Marla gently pushes the dollar bills from Cartwright towards you. "You take it," she says. "Buy a good meal. I think you need it more than I do tonight." You shake your head. "Split it," you insist. "Maybe we both could use something comforting." She concedes with a nod, tucking one of the notes aside. "All right." Together, quietly, the two of you tend to the closing tasks. You cash out the little register at the counter, count and lock away the house's cash box, and cover the ticker machine. As you drape a cloth over it, you think of the doctor's words about the ticker acting as a narcotic, lulling traders into a trance. How many hours today were you all under its spell? The machine now looks like a birdcage with a cover, a creature put to sleep. If only covering it could also erase the day's troubles. Marla finishes writing out a summary of the day's ledgers to give to Mr. Cartwright tomorrow. You sweep up the floor, including the small mountain of discarded ticker tape that piled up. As you collect the coils of paper, you're reminded of the celebratory ticker parades you've seen for heroes and presidents, showers of tape raining down. Here, at day's end, it feels more like confetti after a party that ended in tears. In the stillness, you notice the chalkboard still bears the last prices. There, in stark white chalk, consolidated copper minus $32, U.S. steel minus $45, and the others like a snapshot of the market's final state. Billy's story is hidden in those numbers, invisible to anyone who didn't witness it. To a stranger, they're just figures. To you, they're a tragedy. Marla steps up with the eraser and gently touches your arm, silently asking if she should wipe it clean. You give a slight nod. Perhaps it's best not to leave these up. With methodical care, she begins erasing the board. The chalk squeaks and the numbers blur, then disappear under the gray wash of dust. By the time she finishes, the slate is blank and clean, as if ready for a fresh start. The emptiness of the board brings a small measure of relief. Tomorrow will have its own numbers, its own story. Today's is gone, living only in memory and ledger books now. You check the lock on the front door and turn off the main gas valve for several of the lamps, leaving just one by the door and one in the back for Marla to see out. The office dims further, shadows claiming the corners and stretching long across the floor where light still flickers. These are the gaslight shadows you know well, dancing gently as the flames quiver. At this hour, they carry a melancholy comfort, an older kind of quietude that electric lights never provide. You watch one shadow, of the chair by the wall, its silhouette wavering as if someone unseen still sat there contemplating the day. Marla dons her coat and gathers her ledger and handbag. You help her, holding her things briefly as she adjusts a hat pin. There's an intimacy to these small actions, born out of shared adversity. Before leaving, she turns to you one last time. The soft light from the single gas lamp brushes her face, making her look almost ethereal. "You did well today, truly," she says. "It might not feel like it, but you handled a very hard situation with more kindness than many would have. Don't lose that, all right?" Your throat feels tight again. You manage a humble, "Thank you, Marla. I appreciate everything you did too. Couldn't have gotten through it without you." She reaches out and squeezes your hand once, firmly. Then, professional once more, she nods and heads to the door. You open it for her. The world outside is tinted in twilight blues now. street lamps, gas, and a few electric down the way are coming to life, pearls of light in the growing dusk. A cool breeze slips in, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and a distant hint of coal smoke from household fires being lit. "Good night," Marla says, stepping out. She hesitates and adds, "Try not to brood too much, all right? Get some rest." "I'll try. Good night. See you in the morning," you respond. With a final, gentle smile, she walks off into the evening, her figure soon blending with the sparse crowd on the sidewalk. You watch until you see her turn the corner under a street lamp, then she's gone. You stand alone at the threshold of the bucket shop, half in, half out. The door is locked behind you now, the key heavy in your hand. You take a moment just to observe the scene on the street, grounding yourself in the present reality after the whirlwind of the day. Manhattan evenings have their own rhythm. The rush of the day's business mellows. The clatter of carts and carriages becomes more intermittent. Footsteps echo a bit more in the cooling air as people make their way home or to evening engagements. A hansom cab trots by, the horse's hooves, a steady clop-clop on the cobbles, the driver humming a tune. Across the street, a street lamp ignites with a soft pop and hiss, gaslight blooming and casting a circle of gentle light where a couple walks arm in arm. You decide to walk for a while to clear your head instead of heading straight to your modest lodgings. There's something soothing about the night air on your face after being inside that cloistered office. The sky above is deepening from indigo to navy. High above, between the silhouettes of building roofs and early lit windows, a few stars prick through rare, faint pinpoints in a city that rarely shows them. As you stroll, you loosen your tie and undo the top button of your shirt, releasing a small sigh. Each step carries you farther from the intense emotions of the day, letting them trail behind like the receding sound of the ticker tape now absent from your ears. You pass a small park where the leaves of the trees rustle softly. On a bench, an old man sits feeding crumbs to a few persistent pigeons that coo at his feet. The simplicity of the act is almost poetic to you now. He catches your eye and nods amiably. You nod back. In that wordless exchange, you find a fragment of comfort. Life has these gentle moments too, not just the harsh ones. Turning down a quieter side street, you find yourself walking by a familiar church with a tall steeple. The stained glass windows along its side depict scenes in colored fragments. By day they're vibrant, but now they're dark, save for one that's illuminated from inside by candlelight, showing the figure of a shepherd with a lamb. It reminds you vaguely of Billy, or people like him, those lambs led astray by the allure of quick fortune. Who is the shepherd? You wonder. People like Mr. Cartwright would fancy themselves shepherds of the market, but they often are wolves in disguise. Perhaps the only true guide in the financial wilderness is wisdom, hard-earned and often ignored. You continue on. Your route is not direct. Subconsciously, you're extending the walk to delay the solitude of your apartment. The few dollars Mr. Cartwright gave are in your pocket, and you consider stopping by a food cart or a tavern for that nice dinner. But your appetite is fickle right now. Appetite for food, anyway. Instead, you buy a cup of hot tea from a street vendor, hoping it will settle the knot in your stomach. The vendor pours it from a steaming kettle, and the fragrant warmth is welcome in your hands. You sip carefully, the hot liquid both calming and reviving you. Eventually, your wandering takes you back towards your neighborhood. Gas street lamps line the lane here, each pooling light onto the pavement in overlapping circles. A few other residents are out. A nanny pushing an infant pram slowly, humming a lullaby. Two gentlemen on a stoop quietly discussing the day's news. A cat slinking along a wrought iron fence. As you near your building, you hear an echoing set of footsteps behind you, hastening. You tense for a moment, thinking of city pickpockets or troublemakers, but then a familiar voice calls, "Hey, excuse me." Turning, you're surprised to see Billy Finch coming up the street. He's slightly out of breath, as if he's been running to catch up. Under the lamplight, his face looks drawn, eyes red-rimmed. You hadn't expected to see him again so soon, if at all, and for a second your heart pounds, unsure of his intent. Is he angry, desperate? "Billy," you greet softly, cautious. "What are you doing here?" He slows and stops a few paces from you, placing his hands on his knees to catch his breath. He starts, then straightens, trying to regain some composure. "I followed you. I hope that's all right. I just needed to talk." His tone is not hostile, more plaintive, so you relax a fraction. "Of course," you say. "You're all right. We were worried." Billy lets out a bitter chuckle. "Worried? That's a kind word for it." He takes off his hat and runs a hand through his hair, clearly agitated but not in a fury, more in anguish. "I've been walking for the past couple of hours, trying to make sense of things. I almost went to..." He glances down the street, perhaps towards a familiar pub. "But I didn't. Figured my head's foggy enough without drink." You nod and gesture to a nearby bench beneath a street lamp. "Shall we sit?" He looks surprised by the invitation, but grateful. "Sure, yeah." You both sit down. The lamplight above casts a gentle glow. From here you can see the faint outline of your bucket shop sign a few blocks back, though it's dark now. The reminder is unavoidable. "I won't keep you long," Billy says quietly. "I know you've had a long day too. I wanted to apologize." You blink. "Apologize? To me?" He nods, swallowing. "I was angry when I left, burning up inside. And part of me was angry at you. Thought maybe you were in on whatever swindle I imagined happened. But then I thought it through. You've always been straight with me. You tried to warn me today. I know you did." He hangs his head. "I didn't listen." A rush of relief and empathy floods you. "Billy, you don't have to." "Please," he interrupts gently. "Let me say this." He fidgets with his hat in his hands as he continues. "I'm not blameless. I walked in there of my own accord. I've been doing it for months, losing bit by bit, telling myself each day I'd hit it big. You and Miss Thompson, you both gave me looks sometimes, like maybe I should quit while I was only a little behind. I saw it and I ignored it." He inhales shakily. "Today I should have taken the win. You even tried to help me then. But I got greedy. That's on me." You place a hand on his shoulder, feeling the slight tremor in him. "I'm sorry too, Billy. I wish I could have done more. It means a lot that you'd say this. And of course, I'll still be your friend." You manage a soft, rueful chuckle. "Though, given our establishment, maybe I wasn't being a very good friend by letting you keep coming." He gives a weak smile. "You might be right. Perhaps none of us should be in that place." You both lapse into silence, listening to the quiet sounds of the city night. Somewhere down the street, a piano is playing a gentle melody from an open window. Someone practicing scales or an old tune. It's soothing in the background. After a while, Billy speaks again, voice low. "They'll want me to pay what I owe. Cartwright, he gave me a number before I left. I don't have it." He rubs his face. "Not sure what I'm gonna do. Could sell my watch, a few other things. It won't cover it all." You bite your lip. Bucket shops often hounded debtors relentlessly, but sometimes they settled for less if they thought you were tapped out. Mr. Cartwright might be pragmatic. However, that's small comfort to Billy now. I have a little saved, you offer tentatively. It's not much, but I could. Billy immediately shakes his head. No, I wouldn't hear of it. You need that. I got myself into this hole. I'll get out, or, well, face the consequences. You respect his stance, though you still intend to find a discreet way to help if you can, even if just speaking to Mr. Cartwright on his behalf to ease terms. He stands up then, placing his hat back on. It's late, I should let you get home. He hesitates, then holds out his hand. You rise and clasp it. He shakes it firmly, a hint of his old friendly bravado returning. Thank you, for everything. I might not come by the shop again. Probably best I don't, even if I wanted to. I understand, you reply quietly. The thought of not seeing him in the shop pains you. He was one of the bright spots despite everything, but it's likely healthier for him to stay away. If you ever need anything, or just want to talk, you can find me at the boarding house on 2nd Avenue, he adds. Room 3. I'll be looking for work, might leave the city if I have to, but for now, I'll be around. I'll remember that, you say. You take care of yourself, Billy. He musters a final smile, haunted but genuine. You too, you're a good man. Don't let Cartwright or that shop change that. Those words linger in the air as he turns and walks off into the night, his figure slowly blending with the darkness beyond the lamplight. You watch until you can't distinguish him from the other shadows. With a heavy but oddly hopeful heart, you make the last short walk to your building. Climbing the narrow stairs to your small flat, you feel every step like the turning of a page in a book, the end of one chapter, the start of another yet unwritten. Inside, your apartment is humble but cozy enough. You light a lamp on the table, its glow illuminating the familiar few possessions, a second-hand bookshelf with a few cherished volumes on finance and literature, a worn armchair by the window, the quilt your mother made folded neatly on it. It feels good to be home, away from the tense atmosphere of the day. You pour the remaining lukewarm tea from earlier into a cup and sip it as you stand by the window. From here, you have a small view of the street below and the silhouettes of the city beyond. The skyline of Lower Manhattan is visible if you lean, dotted with a few high-rises and construction cranes where new ones will stand. The Metropolitan Life Tower's clock face glows faintly in the distance, keeping midnight's approach. As you gaze out, your thoughts drift. The day's events swirl and then slowly settle like sediment in a jar. There is sadness, yes, especially for Billy's plight and for the part you played. There is also a niggling worry about the broader financial rumors, the coming storm that both you and Marla sensed in Mr. Cartwright's dealings. What would a panic mean for you, for Marla, for countless others? It's a question too vast to answer tonight. Yet, in this gentle quiet, you also find resolve. You think of what Marla said, don't lose the kindness in you. You think of Billy's parting advice, not to let the job change you. They both see something in you worth preserving. And you realize you see it in yourself too, a line you don't want to cross. Perhaps you took a step too far over it today by following orders against your conscience. But tomorrow is uncertain, the future unwritten. You can choose differently, be it in small ways or big. Maybe not in a grand dramatic move. We all have to earn our daily bread, after all. But in the accumulation of small decisions made with integrity. Finishing your tea, you feel a subtle release of tension from your body. A wave of fatigue arrives, a natural consequence of the long emotional day. But it's the kind of weariness that suggests sleep might come gently, not the agitated sleeplessness of worry. There is a sense of closure, albeit incomplete, that at least this one singular day in 1906 is over. In surviving it, you find a small growing faith that you can face whatever comes next. You change into your nightclothes and extinguish all but a single lamp. Before you lie down, you take one last look out the window. The city is quieter now, a few cabs still clattering in the distance, a dog barking faintly somewhere. The stars above are somewhat brighter in the late hour. You recall a line from a poem you read once. The night, in its silence, heals what the day has hurt. You hope that's true. Sliding under the covers of your modest bed, you let out a long exhale. The sheets are cool, and the pillow welcomes your head. Staring at the dim ceiling, you allow your eyes to grow heavy. Images of the day play like lantern slides behind your eyelids. The ticker's ribbon twisting, chalk numbers on a board, Billy's relieved smile at $34, Marla's concerned eyes, Mr. Cartwright's silhouette in his office door. 100. Billy's eyes. You acknowledge each and let them go, one by one, as if placing them in a drawer to be sorted another time. In their place come simpler sensory memories. The comforting bitterness of coffee shared in the morning, the soft scratching of chalk on slate, the warm glow of gaslight upon wood, the muffled chorus of distant footsteps, and the cadence of a friend's voice forgiving you under a street lamp. Outside, the city's great heart beats on, but softly now, like a lullaby. You feel your own heartbeat slowing to match a calm rhythm. The uncertainty of tomorrow remains. It always does. But you've made it through today, and in the quiet of your room, that feels like enough. Your eyes finally drift shut. In the silence, the emotional weight of the day begins to ease, replaced by a gentle, enveloping drowsiness. The last conscious image that floats through your mind is of yourself walking home under the street lamps, each pool of light guiding you onward through the darkness, one step, one lamp at a time, toward whatever future waits. With that image quietly glowing in your thoughts, you surrender to sleep. The city night cradles you, and though the future is uncertain, in this moment you are at peace, drifting off with a heart heavy but hopeful, and the faint sound of a ticker's lullaby echoing softly in your dreams.